Welcome to the stage, JWFNY's celebration honorees, Liz Elting, Deborah Farrick, and Ruth Messenger with Jamie Ellen Black.
Hello. Before we start, I want to introduce one of our supporters and partners and colleagues who is the CEO of the UGA Federation of New York, Eric Goldstein. Oops, phone down. So I had a thought the other day about what ties the three of you together, not just your color scheme, which, hello. Yes. Well, I went neutral for you. So I think what ties you together for me is that you're reluctant heroes. And a reluctant hero is somebody who does amazing work, but doesn't search out the spotlight, but the spotlight comes to you. And I wanted to share what some of the nominators, you were each nominated for this honor, and I wanted to share what they said about you and get your thoughts on that. And then I had stuff to say, but I think we should just like talk, because I want to talk, and I want to hear what you all have to say. So, Deb, when Ayla Morgan nominated you, she said, among other amazing things, Deb is a person who elevates everybody around her. She embodies love and light and female empowerment 101. Whenever she discusses an issue and dives into it, everyone gathers around her. She's an intellectual force, and it's been a gift to be her friend. So, besides all of that being, of course, true and amazing, I wondered what you think about what female empowerment 101 is and could be.
So for me, I think female empowerment is just about being able to identify the best in all women. Everyone brings something new and something different and something special to the table. And sometimes we lose sight of that because of the world around us and the experiences we may have, which sort of wear us down and beat us up. And I think that it's just, we all have something to bring, and we all have something to share, and we all have something to give. And you can't just sort of turn in and not be part of a larger community, because as you begin to rise and you reach out to other people around you, they too will understand possibility. And it's not just, and when I heard myself say, well, you just got to work hard. Look, every woman has an obstacle that they have to overcome. And even if the ride up may seem easy, it's not. And the ride down can be brutal. So I think we just need to really understand that it's just dealing with every single challenge as it comes, having the courage to face these challenges. There's a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt that says, courage is more important than fear, because in fear, we are diminished. But in courage is the uncertainty of making a decision, but making the decision anyway. And so I think that's what I mean by just empowering and being out there in the world for women.
Well said. We're going to yes. We're going to revisit something that you said about working hard. It reminded me when you were talking, we have a woman in our circle named Paula Pretlow, and she told a story about growing up in Oklahoma, and they had nothing, like nothing. And she said, but we still gave. It was important to her family to give something, and everybody does have something that they can share, they can do, they can offer. So I think that is part of it, is to recognize what it is that you have and then shine a light on that so that others can see it, and then there's a connection.
Yeah, for sure. And just to I think part of that also is that there's no greater personal empowerment than when you feel you are helping somebody else, right? And it may be something small, it may be a gesture to help somebody, cross the street, or it may be something that you do in the course of your business day that you don't even realize is significant, but to that person, it's memorable. And so it's life is about a series of moments that when you're kind, when you are committed to your idea that, we're all in this together, it is, don't ever underestimate the moments and the generosity and the kindness and the impact that that has on people. And do it not because you want anything, just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's beautifully said. Oh, so Liz. Hello, Liz. Rachel.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi. Rachel Weinstein, when she nominated you, told me, Liz Elting is a visionary entrepreneur and extraordinary philanthropist whose values and priorities closely align with that of JWFNY. She is strategic and intentional in her giving. Liz invests her time, treasure, and talent into nurturing and mentoring the next generation of trailblazing entrepreneurs. She very much embodies all that we do at JWFNY. Again, all true. So what is embodying all that JWFNY is? What is embodying helping entrepreneurs, which is what you do, and you do it very well. And while we do social entrepreneurs, you do entrepreneurs, and there's definitely a tie there. But what does that mean to you to embody that?
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited and honored to be here today, Jamie and Rachel and all of you. And this is just so special that this is my first opportunity to speak since COVID. So loving being here. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm just having the most wonderful time seeing the people that are most important to me in my life. But as far as embodying women and women entrepreneurs, I mean, I think it's all about collaborating together, right? And are all being a team and are supporting one another. And I was fortunate to have my entrepreneurial career for 26 years, which I finished doing with TransPerfect in 2018. And now I get the opportunity to support women entrepreneurs and women and other marginalized populations. And it was really interesting when I got to know JWF better, because I realized that's precisely what you're all doing. And I understand in the earlier days of your existence, you were supporting organizations that were helping people, which is wonderful. And I think maybe even Jamie, since you came on board, you're supporting women entrepreneurs who, are making the world a better place for all of us, for people of all races, all religions, people from all over the world. I think it's on 5 continents. I mean, you work in Eastern Europe, you work in Israel, but you work everywhere around the world. And it's just amazing. And I love the way you get to know these amazing women, and you go through the process, and these women are changing the world in so many wonderful ways, such as dealing with global warming, dealing with trafficking, dealing with gun safety, and the list goes on and on. I think Rachel mentioned some of them, but this is what we all need to do, because the world will not change without us. And I love the way you are supporting women who are doing that. And that's what I'm doing with my foundation. My foundation, our mission is to help support and empower women and marginalized populations. And I'm just so aligned with what you're doing, and I so respect what you're doing, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sure.
In the video, you talked about how you showed up at something, and your partner said, your partner was there, and somebody was like, were you the assistant? I've had that before. I used to say I'm the driver. I'm the driver. So when did that change for you, and how?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, I don't think it's changed yet, quite frankly. And I think that's what we've all seen. It hasn't. And this is why we need to do what we're doing, because I was a part of my company for 26 years. And people just assumed because, I was partners with a man, and because he was a man, he could do certain things that I couldn't do. He could be tough. He could be, I don't know. I mean, whatever. He could do things that I would get attacked for doing. I had to be nicer. I had to, do things that he wouldn't do. And people the whole way along, because he was the man, he got away with more things. So it hasn't changed yet. And that's precisely why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Exactly, and we are
Yeah.
going to talk about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Good. All right, Ruth. I nominated Ruth. So I nominated you because of the tremendous impact you've had on this organization from the very beginning as a founding member, all through the years and till today, and hopefully for many years to come, please. And I will never tire of hearing your voicemails and emails. I get like fangirl, and I'm like, Ruth Messenger just left me a voicemail. Still, after all these years. So I was thinking about how everyone who's ever met you has an anecdote to tell, whether it's about a rabbi talking about something you taught them, or someone talking about your work in Africa, or most recently, Afghanistan. I hear how you never sleep, and how it seems you help everyone and anyone who asks, everyone. So if you don't know Ruth, I strongly suggest you introduce yourself to her and that you meet her, because she's truly remarkable. All right, so you and I learned recently of a statistic, and this statistic is that only 1.6%, listen, 1.6% of all funding in the United States goes to organizations that serve women and girls. 1.6. And in Israel, it's 0.9. So less than 2% in the United States is going intentionally to support women and girls. We find this appalling, don't we? Yes, we do. So I'm wondering if you could tell me and everyone here why you think we've made so little progress.
How long do you all have? I want to pick up, first of all, actually, I want to go out of turn and just say that of the three of us up here, I have the privilege of working for the Jewish Women's Foundation of New York. And so I want to do a shout out to Melissa, who organized this luncheon, to Jamie, as Liz said, for her extraordinary leadership in changing the focus to make it on women and girls. And to Rachel Siegel, who is one of the many assistants I've had in this world, who makes everything that I do look good, because she organizes every minute of my teaching of all three cohorts. Thank you, Rachel Siegel. But I want to say something else about the foundation, and that is the reason that I'm happy to be working with you is because, like American Jewish World Service, which I'm happy to say is well represented here, it is a learning organization. And too many of us, too much of the time, for various reasons, take important jobs in important places or spend time with important people, but not in places where people learn, not in places where people, which I was just discussing with Eric, critique the lack of courage and say, what can we do? There are people here from every cohort that we have in the foundation. They will tell you that at some point in the life of each cohort, I have been challenged by participants. Participants have challenged each other. We have called each other out on issues of racism and sexism and misunderstandings of power. That's the only way that you learn. And I'm going to venture to say, because I think it's true, that even this audience, with its huge commitment to the foundation and many other things that each of you are doing in your lives, will always benefit more from being in learning situations where you challenge what you're doing. I could do lots of shout outs here, but since Sherry Turritz is in the front row, the Vice President for Programs at American Jewish World Service supports around the world, and I'm out of touch, so I'm by the number wrong, but over 400 grassroots organizations in 20 countries, the vast majority of which are run by women. And most of you, for thousands of reasons, would have no idea what most of those women are doing. And by the way, take the program home and read it carefully. But remember that in those visionary circles that you saw, we spend time not selecting people who ought to be selected because we have limits, and those limits are financial. There are women making change all over the world who are not being recognized for what they're doing, and that is part of the answer to your question, is if we keep not recognizing them, And we keep having the bias or the deferral to, oh, the man must be in charge, or, oh, like, let's get someone important from Latin America. Oh, I know a good man. Let's think about a great rabbi to speak at the event. Oh, I know a good man, since one of my rabbis, women rabbis, is sitting right here. Thank you, Julie. But I want to say that all of us are responsible for that. Everyone in this room needs to do what is the tiniest bit of risk-taking, but it's the constant, like, well, what about thinking about a woman? And I'm going to say, because I figure I might not get the mic back, so just so everyone is clear, I want to say that in the universe in which I operate now, the Jewish universe, and in the political universe, which I have, in my own way, never left and intended to continue to work in, there is massive sexism. There is massive sexism in American politics at the national, state, and local level, and there is massive sexism in the American Jewish community. And we are losing the brilliance and the strength and the leadership potential of significant parts of our population because of that.
Yes to all that. I think, you know, when we do choose the entrepreneurs, and it's true, we choose 10 a year because that's what our resources allow. And it's important to stay within your resources. But one of the reasons I suggested the change, and the foundation was amazing to just follow my crazy idea and make it better, really. But one of the reasons was because I saw in 2016 a woman who did not get what many people thought she was going to get. And I thought, we need to think about women, and we need to find the leaders who are leaders right now and who will be leading in the future. And I said to myself, we need to say, not just what are you doing now, but what are you going to do next? And what are you going to do after that? And invest in women in the beginning and in the middle and at the end, because often we don't get them at the end. Programs are for, 35 and under. And there's a whole brain trust that's lost because we are so youth focused. So I had all these other things.
Jamie, I just want to say we're not only youth focused, but we also have the capacity, all of us, to a too great an extent, to focus on only one thing at a time. So the important understanding in America of the pervasive evil of race and racism, and the existence in the Jewish community of Jews of color who are ignored. Everybody needs to focus in on those issues without forgetting the fact that there is gender bias, and without forgetting the fact that there are other biases. We have the capacity to be about more than one thing at a time, and we have to exercise it.
And we're people who can hold more than one thing in our heads at the same time. We're humans, right? And we can hold contradictions in our heads at the same time.
So a quick challenge, since Deborah mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt. By the way, when you saw that great video, those videos of my colleagues up here, you saw that Deborah covered the 9/11, that she covered the Boston Marathon bombing. It forgot to tell you that she covered me on the city council when she was at New York One, but
It was an honor.
She quoted Eleanor Roosevelt, and so I would say to the people in this room, among the many, many, many brilliant things that Eleanor Roosevelt said, but to each and every one of us, Eleanor Roosevelt said, every day you must do the thing you think you cannot do. And if we all got up every morning and said that to ourselves, just the people in this room, the world would be a better place.
Right. And I love that, Ruth is mentioning that, because I do think women have a reputation for being risk averse, and we tend to be, because we want everything to be perfect. We want to make sure it's going to work, but we need to go for it, because in the end, when we do, we tend to do at least as well. We get better results. So it's just about going out there and taking the risk and not holding back and being fierce, as we were talking about earlier. I think that's so critical. So absolutely. And one last thing on the supporting younger entrepreneurs. I do see that does happen. But the nice thing about doing that is then we invest a little in them, and then they get follow-on investments, and then they grow their company. And I've had the good fortune of seeing that with some of the companies I'm supporting. my investment is one thing, but then they get millions of dollars after that because a few people, went for it. So yes, absolutely.
I was just going to say something about gender bias, and part of my experience is that I never treated men any differently than I treated women, right? And what I mean by that is the perspective I brought is if you're full of nonsense, you're full of nonsense. I don't care if you're a man, I don't care if you're a woman, and I'm going to call you on it, right? And if I have to call somebody out who's high in government or power, then I shall. And if I need to tell somebody at a board meeting to change their tone, okay, because we're all on the same team, I will do that, right? We cannot be afraid to stand up and say these things, because if we do, then we are making ourselves much more timid than we should be, right? Our voice is no more different. And you know what? I'm a nice person. You can like me or you can't like me. I don't care. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Focus on the goal and the objective, and stop. And I think we have to change. We cannot go into a situation, from my perspective, and I've had opportunities, and so, but my opportunities were because I never saw myself as any less, right? I never saw myself as handicapped by my sex, or because I had children, or because any of that. And so I think just showing up, like if we were to erase, and I know this is sort of an ideal perspective, but erase that. When you walk into that room, don't be afraid to talk to people as equals. And it's got to be enough, because if we hold ourselves back, then we are showing up as less than we are, and that is not acceptable. And that starts with us, and bringing women up and mentoring them. And there's a boys club. There should be a much deeper women's club, and I think there is, but it's very different. It's less strategic, right? And so if we have to, frankly, stop giving to certain causes that and really focusing on women. There's a group called the Road to 120, and it's to give equality in education to young girls who wouldn't otherwise have it. I was part of an organization in India called Video Volunteers, taking women who had no opportunities, no chance of success, right, and training them how to shoot a camera to tell stories in their communities and shine the light on all the injustices that were happening there. And they did it at great personal risk to themselves, to their families, in a caste system where you are owned by your husband, and yet they still did it. And so, we just have to keep moving the needle. We have to not find excuses not to be who we are, and we can't be afraid to call out nonsense and to tell a man, watch your tone.
And if you're going to enjoy a bit of humor, I was telling Deborah before at the cocktail hour or whatever, when I was in government and was speaking often about political power for women, my daughter was in high school, some of you know my daughter, and she had a T-shirt which said on the front of the T-shirt, for a woman to be thought half as good as a man, she must do twice the work in half the time. And on the back of the T-shirt it said, fortunately, this is not difficult.
Right. I think what's critical here is, and this is sort of what I've tried to live by, and I see all these amazing women living by, is it's irrelevant that we're women. It's about results. Just focus on results. Focus on showing what you can do, and generally you'll do it at least as well or better, as I said before. But then, don't let anything stop you. Don't think you're in a certain role because you're a woman. No, you're in a role to achieve results and make the world exactly the way you want it to be.
The one thing I'll say, piggybacking on that, is that sometimes we think, oh, I don't have a plan, I don't have a strategy. Guess what? Nobody has a plan. Nobody has a strategy. Everybody's just putting one foot in front of the other, and that goes for women, that goes for men, that goes for different people in different communities. But there's so much talent out there in so many different communities that we have to start really working together. And I know, it sounds sort of, that's what everybody's supposed to say, but it's really true, and we have to put our actions into play so that we are creating a system where there's an old boys club. Well, we are so much more powerful as women, because to Ruth's point, right, and my response to the T-shirt was that I said, when I had two little kids and I had to go to work, all right, I was up at 5:30 in the morning, getting them up, getting them ready for school, getting them to the school, getting myself ready, getting to start what would then be a 12 or 18-hour day. And guess what? By the time I actually walked into work, my bosses were simply just putting on their pants and walking in. And I'm like, what is fair about this? So yes, women can do it better. And, it's not a problem. More is demanded of us and more is expected of us, I think, because we do have so many different hats and so many roles that we need to play within society, whether it's, to ourselves, to our families, to our, the greater community that we serve. But, but yeah, it's sort of changing, I think, a little bit the mindset and not getting bogged down by those figures. If those figures, 1.1%, let's start giving. Let's start giving. Let's find them out. Let's search them out. Let's come up with a list of organizations that are doing good work to empower women, to empower people in socioeconomically, depressed communities. Let's get it going.
And the capacity to do more than one thing at a time and to focus on more than one thing at a time. So be more concerned about the gender and sexism that continues without leaving behind the racism. I went to Afghanistan because of the plight of 1.3 million girls who are not being allowed to go to school. But when you talk about them, to many people, in the 10 days since I've been back, it's, well, yes, I know Afghanistan has huge problems, but now we're doing Ukraine. Well, it's a big demand, folks, but we can do more than one thing at a time. And the disaster in Ukraine will not disappear because something else happens in the news. And nobody here can work on all of these issues. You do need to follow your passions, but you need to be allied with other people. That's one of the things that, and the cohorts can speak to Jamie afterwards, but one of the things we've tried to do in the cohorts, which is a stretch, is to have 10 women who are of different ages, of different racial backgrounds, working on 2 or 3, 5 countries, on a couple of different continents, with some of them with brand new experience and some of them with really well-vested experience, and figuring out, can we learn, that's my challenge, to facilitate those discussions and learn from them and encourage them learning from each other, because to focus in beyond that is simply to keep leaving people behind.
Well, yes. And unfortunately, we do not have more time because I just looked at my watch and we're keeping you over time, but we're going to keep going just for a little while longer. Here, we're going to wrap this up though, because we want to introduce the next 10 women who are going to be in our 4th cohort. When I was trying to figure out how to wear a knee brace and a dress to this event, I tried on 17 dresses. And my husband came in and they were all over the bed. And he said, "Oh, it's so hard to be a woman." I was like, "It's great to be a woman. Look at all these choices I have. What do you get to do? Wear a suit?" So it's all of a piece. And I really just want to thank you. We were going to do other things, but now we're not. So thank you for allowing us to honor you. And thank you for being such outstanding role models as women, as leaders, as achievers, as workers, all of the things that you do, all of the things that you bring to everyone in your personal world and in the professional world, and how you were inspiring today. This is, I couldn't have planned this. So thank you very, very much.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, Jamie, and everyone.